A disheveled man used nail clippers to trim his beard, even used nail clippers as a mirror. He also indulged in the luxury of bathing with mineral water. His name is Oliver. This had been his lifestyle for 35 years straight. 35 years ago, Oliver and his brother were pursued by the police for theft. The three of them ran into a corridor. The police saw the brothers trying to escape. He hastily fired and hit the brother's leg. Suddenly, a strange explosion sounded in the corridor. The sound seemed to warn them that a nightmare was coming. Because his brother was injured, Oliver chose to surrender. The police prepared to take them out, but the main door could not be opened no matter what. They could only go to other floors, but after going down from the first floor, they ended up on the 9th floor, directly from the bottom to the top of the building. The floors seemed to be in an endless loop. They looked down through the gaps of the stairs. Below, countless floors stretched out of sight, and when they looked up, they still couldn't see the top. The police couldn't believe it. Then he ran downstairs, but in Oliver's eyes, the police were running down from upstairs. The police unwillingly threw the keys downwards, but the keys fell from upstairs. It was then that they believed the corridor was looping. They tried to call for help, hoping someone passing by could help open the door. 3 days passed. The brother died from his gunshot wound. At this point, the police discovered the food they had eaten reappeared. It turned out that time here was also looping. The police's emotions collapsed. 35 years later, Oliver still lived actively. His living space was always tidy. He even exercised in the corridor and ate healthy food. While the police had become an old man, he could only wait for death, eating listlessly. He even needed Oliver's help to walk. Later, this old police officer reached the end of his life. On his deathbed, he finally remembered the truth about the time loop. It turned out he was not a police officer. His name was Daniel. At that time, he was a 10-year-old child. He went on an outing with his mother's stepfather and sister. They drove past a billboard. Then they arrived at a gas station. At the gas station, the stepfather gave the sister a sip of a drink, but the sister had asthma, and she was allergic to lemon, and this drink happened to contain lemon juice. Then on the road, the sister had an asthma attack. They stopped the car to treat the sister, but the stepfather accidentally smashed the sister's medicine. They turned around wanting to take the sister to the hospital. At this time, an explosion sounded for no reason. As if to remind them, a nightmare was about to begin. They drove for several hours, and they did not leave this highway. They passed the gas station again, set off again from the gas station, and came back to the side of the billboard. They continued to drive on the road for several hours, but no matter how they drove, they could not leave the highway. The sister's condition was getting worse. The stepfather couldn't believe it. He asked them to wait by the car. He was preparing to cross to the west side of the highway, but in the end, he came back from the east side. This highway seemed to have a looping space, trapping them here, and because the sister couldn't get medical treatment in time, she eventually died. The mother's emotions collapsed due to the sister's death. She kept beating herself. Later, the stepfather and mother never recovered. This went on for 35 years. Since the gas station's food refreshed every day, it became the couple's base, filled with garbage everywhere. On the other hand, Daniel had pitched a tent in the wild. He exercised and kept fit every day and ate cacti, living an active and healthy life. Later, the mother passed away, and the stepfather was also on the verge of death. On his deathbed, he remembered the truth about the time loop. He warned Daniel, never think about escaping. Don't get into a police car. Otherwise, he would fall into the next loop. After saying this, the father left. Daniel buried his parents. On this desolate highway that had been abandoned for 35 years, a police car suddenly appeared. He had been trapped in the wilderness, eating cacti for 35 years, until the appearance of the police car. In the end, he did not listen to his stepfather's words. He took his only luggage, opened the door of the police car. In an instant, he lost his original memory uncontrollably. He got in the car, put on the police uniform, shaved off his wild beard. Now he has a new identity and a new memory. He is a righteous police officer. His mission is to capture a pair of thieving brothers. Then he chased the brothers to a corridor. He fired at the older brother during the arrest, so he and Oliver were trapped in this corridor for another 35 years. On his deathbed, the police officers finally regained his memory, remembered his name was Daniel. So he told Oliver with his last breath, never leave this corridor in this life. Don't take the elevator, otherwise you will fall into a new loop. After saying this, he left. Soon after Daniel's death, an elevator appeared in the corridor. Oliver struggled for a long time. He even thought about ending his life with a gun, but in the end, he couldn't resist the temptation of freedom. Oliver chose to leave by elevator, making the same choice as Daniel before. When the elevator door opened, Oliver lost his memory. He forgot his own name. He had a new identity. As an elevator attendant, he put on the attendant's uniform, then tidied his hair. Soon a newlywed couple entered the elevator. The elevator reached the 30th floor. Oliver helped them with their bags, but accidentally dropped the husband's bag on the ground. Then a bee flew in, stings the husband who is allergic to bees. Suddenly, an explosion was heard again. A nightmare strikes once more. The wife hurriedly searched for medicine in the bag, but the bottle was already broken by Oliver. And in this corridor, a new cycle is about to begin.